Ladies and gentlemen, as part of the fight against the COVID-19 pandemic, on 17th March 2020, the President of the Republic, His Excellency Paul Biya, prescribed 13 measures to limit and control the spread of this pandemic in our country. On 9 April, additional measures were prescribed, including the compulsory wearing of protective masks in all areas open to the public. Given the rate at which this pandemic was spreading in our country, the President of the Republic on 2 occasions extended the restrictive measures taken on 17th March and 9th April for a renewable period of 15 days. Although these measures are difficult, they are necessary to ensure the protection of all and to limit the spread of COVID-19 in our country. These measures have created economic and social distortions whose effects are being felt in several areas of activity. The most concerned are undoubtedly the transport, hotel, and catering sectors, in short, trade in general. Faced with this situation, the head of state instructed the government to conduct a study to assess the impact of COVID-19 on the national economy and to determine the accompanying measures to be implemented to support sectors in difficulty as well as households that are most in need. To implement this instruction, the study was carried out following a participatory approach in conjunction with the private sector and technical and financial partners. In addition, weekly meetings to evaluate the implementation of COVID-19 response strategy have revealed that the actions taken by the government to contain this pandemic are beginning to bear fruit. Although screening tests reveal new cases of coronavirus positive patients, the number of people declared healed of this disease in our country has been on the rise. Furthermore, the mortality rate from this virus remains low compared to the number of positive cases. Considering the encouraging results observed in the implementation of the COVID-19 response strategy in Cameroon and the conclusions of the study on the socioeconomic impact of this pandemic on our economy, the President of the Republic, His Excellency Paul Biya, has decided the following easing and support measures in order to relieve the sectors hard hit by this health crisis. 1. The opening after 6 p.m. of bars, restaurants, and leisure facilities with the obligation for customers and users to respect barrier measures, in particular, the wearing of protective masks and social distancing. 2. The lifting of the measure reducing the mandatory number of passengers in all public transport by bus and taxi. The wearing of masks remains compulsory and overloading is prohibited. 3. The suspension for the second quarter of 2020 of general accounting audits except in cases of suspected tax evasion. 4. The postponement of the deadline for filling statistical and tax declarations without penalties in case of payment of the corresponding balance. 5. The granting of moratorium and deferrals of payment to companies directly affected by the crisis, hence suspending forced recovery measures against them. 6. Supporting the finances of companies through the allocation of a special envelope of 25 billion CFA francs for the clearance of stocks of VAT credits awaiting reimbursement. 7. The postponement of the deadline to pay land taxes for the 2020 financial year to 30th September 2020. 8. Full deductibility to determine the corporate income tax of donations and gifts made by companies for the fight against COVID-19 pandemic. 9. The exemption from the tourist tax in the hotel and catering sectors for the rest of the 2020 financial year as from March. 10. Exemption from the withholding tax and from parking fees for taxis and motorbikes, as well as from the axle tax from the second quarter. This measure could be extended to the rest of 2020. 11. Exemption for the second quarter from the withholding tax and council taxes, market duties, etc., for petty traders such as buyers and sellers. 12. The temporary suspension for a period of 3 months of the payment of parking and demurrage charges in the Douala and Kribi ports for essential goods. 13. The establishment of a Ministry of Finance mini-part consultation framework with the main economic actors in order to mitigate the effects of the crisis and promote a rapid resumption of activity. 14. The suspension for a period of 3 months, that is, April, May, and June, of on-site inspections by the National Insurance Fund. 15. The cancellation of penalties for late payment of Social Security contributions due to the National Insurance Fund upon reasoned request. 16. Spreading the payment of the Social Security contributions for the months of April, May, and June 2020 over 3 installments upon reasoned request. 17. The maintenance for the next 3 months, that is, from May to July, of the payment of family allowances to staff of companies which are unable to pay Social Security contributions or which have placed their staff on technical leave because of the economic downturn, particularly in the catering, hotel, and transport sectors. 18. The increase of family allowance from 2,800 CFA to 4,500 CFA. 19. The 20% increase of old age pensions that were not automatically re-evaluated after the 2016 reform. In addition, the President of the Republic has decided to extend the measures taken on 17th March 2020 as part of the COVID-19 pandemic response strategy for an additional 15-day period, renewable if necessary. In conclusion, I urge the population to continue to strictly observe the barrier measures and all measures aimed at limiting the spread of the coronavirus in our country, in particular the systematic wearing of protective masks in all areas open to the public and the prohibition of gatherings. I also call on public workers who have abandoned their duty post under the pretext of confinement to return without delay to their places of work, failing which they will be subject to the disciplinary sanctions provided for by the regulations in force. Ministers have been instructed to ensure compliance with this, both at the central level and in the decentralized services of the state. It is by remaining mobilized, cautious, and determined that we will overcome this pandemic.